Captain Kim Tae-ing stood on the bridge of Earth's biggest spaceship called Harmony and looked through the big windows at the huge space station getting bigger and bigger in front of them. The Galaxy Council headquarters looked like a giant silver wheel spinning slowly among the bright stars. His hands were not shaking, but his heart was beating very fast. This was the first time humans would meet the Council officially after 3 long years of watching them from far away. Lieutenant Park Minji was sitting at her communications desk, and she looked worried even though she tried to hide it. She turned to the captain and said, "Captain, we are getting another message from the council." Her voice sounded nervous and everyone on the bridge could hear it. The holographic message started glowing and showed Ambassador Velter, who was a very tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms and golden eyes that looked scary. "Human delegation, you must come before the full council in 2 hours. The charges against your species are very serious. Prepare your defense," he said in a cold voice. Kim Tae-yang felt his jaw get tight when he heard the word charges. They were treating humans like criminals before even listening to what they had to say. His communications officer, Sergeant Lee Do-yun, shook his head and looked angry. "So they have already decided they don't like us," he said. The captain looked around at his crew and saw how worried they all were. Navigator Choi Yuna was looking at star charts and trying to find ways they could escape quickly if things went bad. Engineer Han Ji-hoon was checking their weapon systems just in case they needed to fight. Medical officer Dr. Song Hana was reading reports about all the different alien species they might meet. "What exactly are we accused of?" asked Commander Shin Woo-bin, who was the captain's second in command and best friend. Park Minji looked at her screen and read the official charges: excessive aggression, rapid territorial expansion, and creating instability in the galactic balance. She looked up with confusion on her face. "Sir, we have only been exploring space for 50 years. Most of these alien species have been traveling between stars for thousands of years." Kim Tae-yang studied the charges very carefully. The Galaxy Council had 12 ancient civilizations, and each one represented different parts of the galaxy. The Veltari were known for being good at talking and making deals. The Quran were master traders who could buy and sell anything. The Zephyrians were famous for having the most advanced technology. All of them had been watching humanity's fast expansion and getting more and more worried. "They are afraid of us," said Dr. Song Hana, looking up from her medical reports. "Every species described here took hundreds of years to develop space travel. We did it in just a few decades." The captain nodded his head grimly. "And now they want to put limits on us before we become too powerful for them to control." As the Harmony spaceship connected to the council station, Kim Tae-yang chose his small team for the diplomatic meeting. Besides himself, he would take Dr. Song Hana as a science advisor, Commander Shin Woo-bin as military counsel, and Park Minji as communications expert. The rest of the crew would wait on the ship and be ready for anything. Walking through the station's long corridors, they passed many different alien species. Some looked almost like humans, while others were completely strange and bizarre. A group of floating jellyfish-like creatures drifted past them, followed by tall insect-like beings with many eyes. The diversity was incredible, but Kim Tae-yang noticed something that made him worried. None of them looked friendly toward the human delegation. "Captain," whispered Park Minji, "I'm picking up their conversations on many different frequencies. They are all talking about us. Most of what they say is not good." The council chamber was enormous and had seats arranged in a perfect circle around a central platform. Each of the 12 council members sat in fancy chairs that were designed for their specific body types. The chamber was full of noise from dozens of different languages and ways of communicating. Ambassador Velter stood at the center with his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture that showed his authority. "The council recognizes the human delegation." Captain Kim Tae-yang, "You stand accused of leading a species that threatens galactic stability. How do you answer these charges?" Kim Tae-yang stepped forward and felt the weight of billions of human lives on his shoulders. All around him, the council members leaned forward, and their various eyes, sensors, and communication organs focused on him like he was some kind of dangerous animal. This was humanity's big moment to prove they belonged among the stars. The captain looked around the chamber and saw faces that had already decided humans were guilty. He saw the ancient Veltari with their blue skin and golden eyes, the crystalline Quran who communicated with colored lights, the floating energy beings called Zixara who spoke through electronic pulses, The insect-like Tyslons with their clicking voices, each species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species grow powerful and then become threats to everyone else. From their point of view, humans were following the same dangerous pattern that had caused problems before Kim. Tiang took a deep breath and thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. He thought about Earth slowly dying from pollution and too many people. He thought about the desperate attempts to contact other species for help. He thought about the long journey to build colonies on distant worlds. He thought about fighting pirates and slavers who thought humans were easy targets. The captain looked at each council member carefully. He could see in their faces that they had already made their decision. This was not a trial where they would listen to evidence and then decide. This was a sentencing where they would tell humans what punishment they had chosen around the chamber. Hundreds of alien beings waited to hear what the human captain would say. The air felt heavy with tension and fear. Everyone knew that this moment would change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Velter tapped his forearms impatiently on his chair. "We are waiting for your response." Captain Kim Taeyang looked at Dr. Song Hannah, who gave him an encouraging nod. He looked at Commander Shin Wubin, who stood ready to support whatever decision his captain made. He looked at Park Minji, who was monitoring all the alien conversations and preparing to translate anything important. The captain straightened his uniform and prepared to speak. He knew that his next words would determine whether humanity would be accepted as equals among the stars or treated as criminals who needed to be controlled. His voice would speak for every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of exploring them. This was the moment when everything would change. The final battle for human space began at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, where the remaining Void Hunter fleets made their desperate last stand. What had started as a harvest had become a systematic extermination, not of humanity, but of the Void Hunters themselves. Fleet Admiral Sung Ho stood on the command deck of the battleship Inchin's Fury, watching as the last of the biomechanical monstrosities was reduced to molecular debris. Behind him, the tactical display showed the complete annihilation of the Void Hunter Armada. "All hostile contacts eliminated," reported Captain Lejin. "The Void Hunter threat has been permanently neutralized." "Confirmed kills on all biomechanical vessels," added the weapons officer. "We're detecting no regeneration signatures." "The threat is contained," the admiral nodded slowly. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. The galaxy's most feared enemy, the creatures that had consumed entire civilizations, had been eliminated by the species the Council had called too aggressive and dangerously militaristic. Across human space, the news was received with quiet satisfaction rather than celebration. The war was over, but the cost had been measured in billions of lives across the galaxy. The Council's arrogance had nearly doomed every sentient species in known space. On the refugee world of New Jeju, Dr. Mi Kyung addressed the survivors of the galactic catastrophe. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the main assembly hall, their faces showing a mixture of gratitude and shame. "The Void Hunter threat has been eliminated," she announced. "You're safe now. You can begin planning for the future." Deep Current, speaking for the Aquarian refugees, asked the question that haunted every survivor: what happens now? Our homeworlds are gone. Our governments are destroyed. We have nothing left. "You have your lives," replied Governor Kyung-soo, who had joined the meeting, "and you have the opportunity to build something better than what came before." The reconstruction of galactic civilization began slowly. The surviving species, now numbering in the thousands rather than billions, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their cultures on human-protected worlds. The Crystalline Collective, reduced to a few hundred individuals, formally dissolved their government and requested integration into human society. Their prime matrix, the ancient being that had ruled their species for millennia, made a final harmonic declaration: "We were wrong about humanity. We thought your expansion was aggression. We didn't understand that you were building the infrastructure necessary to protect the galaxy from threats. We couldn't comprehend." Similar declarations came from the survivors of other species. The Vorthak remnants, barely 1,000 individuals, acknowledged that their fear of human militarism had blinded them to the necessity of that same militarism. The ethereals, reduced to a handful of energy beings, admitted that their advanced philosophy had been useless against an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with. President Donghayan, addressing the Terran Federation from Earth, outlined humanity's position going forward. We will not rebuild the Council. We will not accept the role of galactic protectors. We will, however, honor our humanitarian obligations to the refugees and help them establish new communities on human worlds. The offer was more generous than the survivors had any right to expect. Humanity could have simply sealed its borders and let the refugees fend for themselves. Instead, they provided sanctuary, resources, and the opportunity to rebuild. But the terms were clear. There would be no return to the old system, no council to make decisions for the galaxy, no restrictions on human expansion, no attempts to control or limit humanity's development. The galaxy had learned at a cost of billions of lives that humanity's aggression had been the only thing standing between civilization and annihilation. Ambassador Haiyan Wu, in his final report to the Federation, summarized the situation with characteristic bluntness. The Council spent 50 years trying to control us because they feared our potential for violence. They never understood that our capacity for violence was the only thing protecting them from creatures that viewed all life as food. The new galactic order that emerged from the ashes was fundamentally different from what had come before. Instead of a centralized council making decisions for dozens of species, there were scattered communities of survivors rebuilding their cultures under human protection. Some species, like the crystalline collective, chose full integration with human society. Others, like the Aquarians, established semi-autonomous colonies that maintained their cultural identity while accepting human protection. The Vorthak, perhaps most surprisingly, requested permission to study human military doctrine. Their request was granted, and they began the long process of learning how to fight not for conquest, but for survival. As the years passed, the galaxy slowly healed. New worlds were colonized, new communities established, new cultures born from the fusion of human and alien perspectives. But the lesson of the Void Hunter War was never forgotten. Sometimes, the most dangerous beings in the galaxy are the ones standing between you and something even worse. The humans had walked away when they were pushed too far. The galaxy had learned at a cost that would be remembered for millennia that protection and oppression were not the same thing. And in the depths of space, where the Void Hunters had once lurked, there was only silence and the slow dance of distant stars, a reminder that sometimes the greatest act of mercy is the willingness to be called the villain by those you're trying to save. The galaxy was safe. Humanity had made sure of that. But the cost of that safety would be remembered forever as the price of arrogance and the value of understanding that some guardians cannot be controlled, only respected or lost. The council chamber became completely silent as Kim Taeyang prepared to speak above them. Huge holographic displays showed pictures of human colonies, spaceships, and military bases spread across dozens of star systems. The evidence against humanity looked overwhelming, at least in terms of how fast they had expanded. Council Speaker Morden was a tall reptilian being with silver scales that caught the light. He activated the main display. In just 50 of your Earth years, humans have established colonies in 43 star systems. The average species takes 300 years to achieve such expansion. Dr. Song Hana moved closer to the captain and whispered quietly, "Sir, they are not wrong about our expansion rate, but they are missing the important facts." The Quran representative was a crystalline being that looked like living glass and communicated through colored light patterns. It flashed a series of red and orange lights. Park Minji quickly used her translation device. "They are saying we consume resources at a rate that cannot be sustained, and we disrupt trade routes that have existed for centuries." Commander Shin Wubin looked angry because he had served in the outer colonies and knew the real truth about human expansion. "Captain, we need to tell them about the refugees," he said. Ambassador Velter pointed to another display showing human military ships. "Your species has also demonstrated concerning aggressive tendencies. You maintain large military fleets and have engaged In armed conflicts with multiple species, Kim Tae-yang felt anger rising in his chest like hot fire. Those conflicts were defensive actions. We were protecting ourselves and others from raiders and slavers. Irrelevant, said Council Member Zixera, who was a floating energy being that spoke through electronic pulses. Your species shows patterns consistent with historical galactic conquerors. We have seen this before. The captain looked around the chamber at the 12 council members. Each one represented civilizations that had been traveling through space for thousands of years. They had watched empires rise and fall. They had seen species that started peacefully but became dangerous threats from their perspective. Humanity was following a familiar and frightening pattern. You misunderstand our motivations, Kim Tae-yang said firmly. We did not expand aggressively. We expanded because we had two. Council Speaker Morden moved his tail in an impatient way. Explain this necessity. Dr. Song Hannah stepped forward after getting permission from the captain. Honored council members, Earth was dying. Climate change, too many people, and running out of resources forced us to find new homes. We did not expand to conquer, we expanded to survive. Many species face such challenges, replied the Veltari ambassador. They typically request assistance from the council and expand gradually over centuries. We tried that, Commander Shin Woo-bin said, and his voice was tight with controlled anger. We sent diplomatic missions to 17 different council worlds. 14 ignored us completely. 2 told us to solve our own problems. 1 offered to take a few thousand humans as workers. The chamber filled with alien conversations as the council members discussed this new information. Kim Tae-yang could see surprise on many faces, or what looked like faces, among the various species. Park Minji activated her translator and spoke to the council directly. We have recordings of every diplomatic contact we attempted. We followed proper protocols. We offered trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. Most of you treated us like primitive newcomers, not worth your time. The Quran representative flashed angry yellow lights, which translated to, even if this is true, your rapid expansion threatens established systems. You take resources that have been managed by others for thousands of years. Dr. Song Hannah created her own holographic display. We have improved every system we entered. Our farming techniques have increased food production by 30% on average. Our medical technology has eliminated 17 diseases that were killing people in various colonies. Our engineering has made space travel safer and more efficient. You also brought conflict, accused Council Member Taislin, who was an insect-like being with multiple clicking voices. Everywhere humans go, there is fighting. Commander Shin Woo-bin stepped forward with his military bearing clearly visible. Because we do not tolerate slavery, piracy, or oppression. The conflicts you mention were us defending innocent people from criminals that you council members ignored for centuries. The chamber erupted in alien voices, electronic pulses, and flashing lights. Kim Tae-yang realized they had hit a sensitive spot. The council had been happy to keep things the way they were, even if it meant allowing suffering to continue in the outer regions of the galaxy. Ambassador Velter raised all 4 arms to demand silence. Even if your motivations were pure, your methods are destabilizing. You move too fast, change too much, and refuse to follow established procedures. Kim Tae-yang looked at his team, then back at the council. He could see they had made their decision before the humans even arrived. This was not a trial, it was a sentencing hearing. What exactly are you proposing? He asked, even though he was afraid of the answer. Council Speaker Morden's scales changed to a darker color. Humanity will be restricted to your current territories. No new colonies, no new exploration. Your military will be reduced to defensive forces only. You will accept council oversight of all human activities. The captain felt his heart drop like a stone. They were being caged like dangerous animals, restricted to a small part of space while the rest of the galaxy remained closed to them. And if we refuse, he asked quietly, then you will be declared a galactic threat. Ambassador Velter replied in a cold voice. The combined fleets of the council will enforce these restrictions. Kim Tae-yang looked around the chamber one more time. 12 ancient civilizations, hundreds of species, all united in their fear of what humanity might become. They had already decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed freedom among the stars. The captain thought about his 8-year-old daughter back on Earth who wanted to become a star pilot like her father. He thought about the 3 billion humans living in 43 different star systems. He thought about all the colonies that could not survive without support from Earth, and Earth that could not survive without resources from the colonies. If they accepted these restrictions, they would be condemning their entire species to slow death. If they refused, they would face the combined military might of civilizations that had been fighting wars among the stars for thousands of years. But as Kim Tae-yang looked at the faces of the council members, he realized something important. They were afraid not just of human expansion, but of what human success might inspire in other species. The galaxy had been stable for so long because everyone accepted the council authority. What would happen if other species saw humans refusing to obey? The captain felt a strange calm settle over him. He had been thinking about this all wrong. This was not about whether humans were right or wrong. This was about whether they would choose freedom or safety, and humans had never chosen safety. When freedom was possible, Ambassador Veltar leaned forward impatiently. "Captain, we require your answer." Kim Tae-yang straightened his uniform and looked directly at the golden eyes of the Veltari ambassador. He was about to give an answer that would change everything. The council chamber's atmosphere became heavy and oppressive as the full weight of the ultimatum settled over the human delegation. Kim Tae-yang could feel the eyes of hundreds of alien beings focused on him, waiting for his response like predators. Watching prey, the holographic displays around the chamber showed the positions of council fleets, massive armadas of warships that could easily crush humanity's modest space force. "You have 1 hour to consider our terms," announced council speaker Morden with his silver scales catching the artificial light. "This is not a negotiation, it is a final offer." As the council members began to leave for a break, Kim Tae-yang gathered his team in a small side chamber that had been provided for their discussions. The room was completely white and had no windows, clearly designed to prevent any communication with their ship outside. "Sir, this is completely insane," said Commander Shin Woo-bin as he paced back and forth like a caged animal. "They are treating us like we are some kind of galactic disease. We have helped more species in 50 years than most of them have helped in centuries." Dr. Song Hannah was looking at data on her tablet. "Captain, I have been studying the council's own historical records. Do you know what the common factor is among all these established civilizations?" Kim Tae-yang looked at her with interest and waited for her answer. "They all stopped growing," she continued, "not just in territory, but in innovation, in spirit, in willingness to help others. They have become comfortable with the way things are, even when the way things are includes suffering." Park Minji had been monitoring communications from the main chamber Surai and picking up interesting conversations. "Many of the younger species in the council are actually sympathetic to us. They remember when their own expansion was restricted by the older civilizations." The captain sat down heavily in the strange alien-designed chair. "It does not matter. The senior council members have the votes. They have made their decision." "What about Earth?" asked Commander Shin Woo-bin. "What about the colonies? There are 3 billion humans spread across 43 systems. Are we supposed to just abandon our people?" Dr. Song Hannah pulled up population data on her tablet. "The colonies cannot survive without continued support from Earth, and Earth cannot survive without the resources from the colonies. If we accept these restrictions, we are condemning our entire species to slow death." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this really meant. This was not just about limiting human expansion, it was about destroying humanity's future entirely. Kim Tae-yang closed his eyes and thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 8 years old, but she already talked about becoming a star pilot like her father. What kind of future would she have in a galaxy where humans were kept in cages and controlled by alien masters? "There is something else, Park," Minji said quietly. "I have been monitoring subspace communications. The council fleets are already moving into position around human space. They were planning to force these restrictions on us no matter what we said." Commander Shin Woo-bin's face became hard as stone. "They never intended to negotiate. This whole trial was just for show." Soft musical chime indicated that their hour was almost up. Kim Tae-yang stood and straightened his uniform. "Are we in communication with the Harmony?" "Yes, Sir." Park Minji confirmed. "Lieutenant Lee has been monitoring everything. Good. Tell him to prepare a message for immediate transmission to Earth Command. Full diplomatic encryption." As they walked back toward the main chamber, Dr. Song Hannah walked beside the captain. "Sir, what are you going to tell them?" Kim Tae-yang was quiet for a long moment. "The truth. That we tried diplomacy and it failed, that we offered cooperation and were rejected, that we are not the threat. They think we are, but we are also not going to be caged like animals. The council chamber was much fuller now, with representatives from dozens of species filling the observer galleries. Word had spread throughout the station about the human trial, and everyone wanted to see how the newest species would respond to the council ultimatum. Ambassador Velter stood at the center of the chamber with his 4 arms folded in a gesture of complete authority. Captain Kim Tae-yang, have you reached a decision? The captain stepped forward, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on his shoulders like a mountain around him. The council members leaned forward in their seats. The observer galleries became completely silent. Before I answer, Kim Tae-yang said in a clear, strong voice, I want to make something clear to this council. We came here in good faith, hoping to find allies and friends among the stars. Instead, we found judges who had already decided our fate before we even spoke. Angry murmurs spread through the chamber like ripples on water. Ambassador Velter golden eyes became narrow. Captain, you are here to accept or reject our terms, not to make speeches. I am here to represent humanity. Kim Tae-yang replied firmly, and humanity deserves to know what kind of galaxy we are dealing with. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many council members as possible. You accuse us of aggression, but we have only fought to protect ourselves and others from pirates and slavers. You accuse us of destabilizing the galaxy, but we have improved every system we have entered. You accuse us of expanding too quickly, but you ignored our requests for help when our homeworld was dying. The captain's voice grew stronger and more confident. You say we are a threat to galactic stability, but the real threat is your own unwillingness to change. You have created a galaxy where suffering is ignored, where the strong prey on the weak, where progress has stopped because change makes you uncomfortable. Council Speaker Morden's scales darkened to an angry black color. Enough, give us your answer. Human Kim Tae-yang took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. He could accept the restrictions and watch his species slowly die, or he could reject them and face the combined might of the council fleets. But as he looked around the chamber, he realized there was a third option, something that none of these ancient civilizations would expect from a young species that had barely begun to explore the stars. The captain smiled slightly and prepared to speak words that would change everything. Kim Tae-yang stood perfectly still in the center of the council chamber, feeling the weight of billions of human lives resting on his next words. The silence was so complete it felt like the entire galaxy was holding its breath. No alien conversations, no electronic pulses, no clicking sounds. Every being in the chamber waited like statues carved from stone. Ambassador Velter golden eyes locked onto the captain's face like targeting lasers. Captain Kim Tae-yang, for the final time, what is your answer to the council ultimatum? The captain took a deep breath and thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. He thought about his daughter on Earth who wanted to explore the stars. He thought about the colonies struggling to survive in distant systems. He thought about the future of his species hanging in the balance. He thought about the choice between slow death under council restrictions or the uncertain promise of freedom in another galaxy. Kim Tae-yang looked directly at Ambassador Velter and spoke a single word that would echo through history like thunder. No, the word hung in the air like a physical thing. Simple, clear, and absolutely final. Not we reject your terms, or we choose to leave, or any elaborate diplomatic response. Just one word that contained the entire spirit of humanity's refusal to be caged like animals. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The council members erupted in shocked conversations like a volcano of voices. The observer galleries buzzed with excitement like angry bees. Emergency lights began flashing red as security systems activated throughout the station. Ambassador Velter forearms trembled with rage like leaves in a storm. You dare to simply say no to the combined authority of the Galaxy Council? Kim Tae-yang expression remained calm as still water. Yes, that is exactly what I dare to do. Council Speaker Morden's scales turned dark red with anger like molten metal. This is impossible. No species has ever rejected the council authority with such disrespect. Dr. Song Hana stepped forward with her tablet. Actually, Speaker Morden, we have studied your historical records. 47 species have rejected council authority over the past 3,000 years, but they all did it with long speeches about their rights and their complaints. And what happened to those species? Asked Commander Shin. Wubin, though he already knew the answer, the chamber fell silent as the implication became clear as daylight. Those species had been crushed by council forces, their civilizations either destroyed or absorbed into the existing order like water soaking into sand. But Captain Kim's response is different. Park Minji said he did not give you a speech to argue with or demands to negotiate. He just said, no, it is harder to fight against that. Kim Taeyang nodded. We are not going to waste time explaining why we will not accept your restrictions. We are not going to argue about our rights or demand recognition. We are simply refusing to comply. Ambassador Velter golden eyes narrowed to slits. And you think this simple refusal will protect you from the consequences? No. The captain replied calmly, but it makes our position clear. We are not rebels trying to reform your system. We are not conquered people begging for mercy. We are a free species that chooses not to participate in your galaxy anymore. The Quran representative flashed rapid yellow lights that translated to pure panic. This is unprecedented. The council has never faced such a response. Dao Song Hana smiled slightly. That is because you have never faced humans before. We have a long history of responding to ultimatums with simple refusal. When the British told American colonists they could not govern themselves, they said no. When fascists told democratic nations they had to surrender, they said no. When oppressors throughout history demanded submission, humans said no. Commander Shin Wubin added, it is not just about the word itself, it is about what it represents. Complete rejection of your authority over us. Kim Taeyang could see the council members struggling to process this response like computers trying to solve an impossible equation. Their entire system was built on negotiation, compromise, and gradual change. They had procedures for handling rebellions, but not for handling a species that simply opted out of their entire civilization. You realize, council member Zixra pulsed urgently, that your refusal changes nothing. We still have the military power to enforce our will, and we still have the ability to leave. Park Minji replied. The first colony ships are already loaded and ready to depart. Your fleets can destroy us, but they cannot make us stay. The captain looked around the chamber at the faces of the council members. He could see confusion, anger, and something else, fear, like animals sensing a predator. They were afraid of what his simple no might inspire in other species. This is about more than just humans, is it not? Kim Taeyang said quietly. You are afraid that other species will hear about our refusal and start asking why they need your permission to live their own lives. Ambassador Velter, forearms clenched into fists. The council maintains order in the galaxy. Without our authority, there would be chaos, war, suffering. There is already chaos, war, and suffering. Dr. Song Hana pointed out. You just ignore it when it happens in places you do not care about. We maintain stability. Council Speaker Morden insisted with his scales shifting to defensive. Blue, you maintain stagnation. Commander Shin Wubin countered. You have created a galaxy where progress has stopped, where the strong prey on the weak, where species are afraid to grow or change because it might disturb your precious order. Kim Taeyang stepped forward. But that is not our problem anymore. We said no to your system and we meant it. We are leaving and we are taking everyone who wants to come with us. The chamber erupted again as the council members realized the full implications, like a dam bursting. The human refusal was not just about one species. It was about the right of any species to reject the council authority entirely. You cannot simply leave, Ambassador Velter shouted. The galaxy is our jurisdiction. The galaxy is your jurisdiction over those who choose to recognize your authority. Kim Taeyang replied calmly. We do not. Therefore, we are not subject to your rules. Park Minji was monitoring communications from the station. Captain, I am detecting massive fleet movements. It looks like they are positioning ships to block our escape routes. Commander Shin Wubin, expression hardened like steel. Let them try. We have planned for this. Dr. Song Hana activated her tablet. We have shared our departure plans with 47 allied species. Even if they stop us, the idea will spread. Other species will ask why they need permission to leave if they are unhappy with council rule. Kim Taeyang could see the panic in the council members' eyes like trapped animals. His single word had done more than reject their ultimatum. It had challenged the very foundation of their authority. This is your final warning, Ambassador Velter said with his voice shaking with rage. Accept our terms or face the consequences. The captain looked at the Veltari ambassador with calm eyes. We already gave you our final answer. It has not changed one word. Council Speaker Morden asked incredulously. You would doom your entire species over one word, Kim Taeyang smiled. Ambassador, that one word is not dooming our species, it is freeing us. The chamber fell silent as the council members finally understood what they were facing. This was not a rebellion they could crush or a negotiation they could win. This was a complete rejection of their entire system of authority, and the most terrifying part was that it was already spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. 3 months after Captain Kim Taeyang's historic refusal, the galaxy was in complete chaos. The single word no had spread across thousands of worlds, like a virus inspiring species after species to question the council authority. The Veltari ambassador had called it the most dangerous word ever spoken in our galaxy. Kim Taeyang stood on the observation deck of the massive colony ship, New Horizon, watching the final preparations for humanity's greatest journey through the reinforced windows he could see. Dozens of other ships, human vessels mixed with alien designs from the 47 species that had chosen to join the Exodus. Captain, we are receiving another transmission from the council, reported Lieutenant Lee Do-yun from the communications station. It is Ambassador Velter again. Kim Taeyang sighed like a man tired of the same conversation. Put him through. The holographic image flickered to life, showing the Veltari ambassador looking exhausted and desperate. His forearms moved frantically as he spoke. Captain, please reconsider. The galaxy is falling apart. 17 species have already declared independence from the council. 12 more are preparing to leave. You do not understand what you have started. I understand perfectly, Kim Taeyang replied calmly. We have reminded the galaxy that the council authority depends on consent, not force. When that consent is withdrawn, the authority disappears like smoke. Dr. Song Hannah joined them on the observation deck, carrying a tablet full of data. Captain, the latest reports from Earth are incredible. Colony ship construction is ahead of schedule. We will have the entire human population evacuated within 4 years. Ambassador Velter golden eyes widened. 4 years? That is impossible. The logistics alone would require species that actually cooperate instead of competing. Commander Shin Wubin interrupted as he approached. Amazing what you can accomplish when you are not wasting energy on council politics. Through the window they could see the approaching fleet of council warships. Hundreds of vessels from different species, all united in their desperation to stop the Exodus. But they were keeping their distance, afraid to fire the first shot in what could become a galactic civil war. Captain, I am receiving messages from 17 different species asking for our ship designs and navigation data. Park Minji reported they want to follow us even if their governments will not officially join the Exodus. Kim Taeyang nodded. Share everything freely. Knowledge belongs to everyone, not just the council. Ambassador Velter image flickered with frustration. You are destroying a civilization that has maintained peace for 3,000 years. We are exposing a civilization that has maintained stagnation for 3,000 years. Dr. Song Hannah corrected. There is a difference. The captain looked at the Veltari ambassador with something like pity. Ambassador, your council had the chance to welcome us as equals. Instead, you treated U.S. as a threat to be contained. Now you are facing the consequences of that choice. But where will you go? Ambassador Velter asked desperately. The void between galaxies is vast and cold. You could all die in the journey. Commander Shin Wubin smiled grimly. We have already launched advanced scout ships. 3 of them have successfully reached the Andromeda Galaxy. The journey is long but survivable, and even if we do not make it, Kim Taeyang added, we will die as free beings, not as prisoners in a cage made of your rules. The communication ended as Ambassador Velter image dissolved into static like a bad dream. The council had run out of arguments and threats. All they could do now was watch as their carefully controlled galaxy began to fall apart. Captain Park Minji called out, we are receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Chun on Earth. A holographic image of Admiral Chun appeared, showing the experienced leader of Earth's space forces. Captain Kim, the council fleets are moving to intercept the first wave of colony ships. They are not going to let us leave peacefully. Kim Taeyang had expected this. Are our defenses ready? More than ready. Admiral Chun replied with a grim smile. We have shared our military technology with all the allied species. The council is about to discover that their ancient fleets are no match for motivated beings fighting for their freedom. Dr. Song Hannah was monitoring sensors. Captain, I am detecting massive energy signatures from the council. Fleet, they are powering up weapon systems. Let them. Kim Tae-yang said calmly, we are not the same species that begged for their help 50 years ago. We have learned to fight. The first battle began 3 hours later when Council forces tried to blockade the human evacuation fleet. The result was shocking to everyone except the humans. The ancient Council warships designed for ceremonial displays of power were no match for human vessels. Built for actual combat, within 6 hours the Council fleet was retreating in confusion. Their energy shields cracked under human plasma weapons. Their slow-moving cruisers were outmaneuvered by faster human fighters. Their communication systems were jammed by human electronic warfare. But the real victory was not military, it was psychological. Word spread across the galaxy that the mighty Council fleet had been defeated by a species that had only been in space for 50 years more. Species began to rebel. The Kithora declared independence and joined the human exodus. The Velrani, young cousins of the Veltari, announced they were tired of being controlled by their older relatives, the Synthians. Artificial beings who had been treated as property by the Council claimed their right to freedom. Kim Tae-yang watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. It was like watching dominoes fall. Each species that joined the exodus inspired others to question why they accepted. Council Authority Captain Dr. Song Hana said with excitement in her voice, we are receiving a message from the Andromeda scout ships. They have found 17 habitable worlds and made contact with 3 indigenous species. All of them are friendly and interested in trade. Commander Shin Woo-bin was monitoring military communications. The Council is recalling their fleets. They are abandoning attempts to stop the exodus and focusing on holding together what is left of their authority park. Minji looked up from her communications console. Captain, we have over 300 species now requesting to join our journey. The evacuation fleet is going to be much larger than we planned. Kim Tae-yang smiled. This is what freedom looks like. When people are given a real choice, they choose to be free. The evacuation continued for 2 more years as more and more species joined the Great Exodus. The Council tried desperately to maintain control, but their authority was crumbling like a house built on sand. The final convoy of human ships left the galaxy on a Tuesday. Kim Tae-yang stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars of the Milky Way galaxy grow smaller and smaller behind them. Captain, his daughter Sumin, now 10 years old, stood beside him. Are we really never coming back? Kim Tae-yang put his hand on her shoulder. Maybe someday when you are grown up you might choose to return. But if you do, it will be as a free person, not as a subject of the Council. The journey to Andromeda took 18 months, but the convoy arrived intact. The humans and their allies found a galaxy full of opportunities, a place where they could build their own civilization based on cooperation instead of control. Back in the Milky Way, the Galaxy Council still existed, but their authority was broken. Species that had remained loyal began to demand reforms. The rigid hierarchy that had controlled the galaxy for 3,000 years was finally changing. And it had all started with one human captain who looked at the most powerful authority in the galaxy and simply said no. Years later, historians would debate whether the Great Exodus was good or bad for galactic civilization. But everyone agreed on one thing: humanity had reminded the galaxy that freedom was always a choice and that choice could never be taken away, only given up. Kim Tae-yang lived to see the first generation of humans born in Andromeda grow up and build cities on worlds that had never known the Council authority. His daughter Sumin became an explorer like her father, but she explored a galaxy where beings were free to choose their own destinies. The word no had changed everything.